Everyone taking the What Do They Believe course, or if you're not taking it and you're following us online, just want to say hi. I've got some good questions so far about the class via email and questions people ask just after class. One of the big questions that's been asked is, how do you share your faith with somebody? We've been covering Hinduism. How do you share your faith with a Hindu without looking arrogant, without looking like someone who thinks you've got all the answers and they don't have any? I think one of the most important things to do is learn to ask good questions. Learn to treat a person with respect, just like you would anybody else. There's not a necessary conflict between being somebody who believes that you believe your faith is true, and in fact, Christianity is the truth, the only truth, only true perspective on God and who He is. There's no conflict between believing that firmly and at the same time being able to have a respectful dialogue with somebody else and understand what they believe and where they're coming from. And in fact, I've found that the most important way to really reach another person is by, one of the most important ways, I should say, of reaching somebody else is by finding out who they are, finding out why they believe what they believe, what their belief means to them. And I think, when you take a class like this, one of the most important things I try to emphasize is there's no way that a class like this is going to get the complexity of a religion, for instance, like Hinduism, covered in 2 weeks. Hopefully you already got that perspective if you're in the class or if you've listened to the audio. But you've been given some of the basic tools of how to do that. Now, the keys is when you go out is use some of what you're learning here as a connecting point with them. For instance, you could ask them, you could say, I've, taken a class and we talk about karma and we talked about moksha and samsara. What do those things mean? I want to make sure I understand it. I think that's a great conversation starter. Ask, say you learned about Brahman. What is Brahman? What do you believe about Brahman? Ask questions, and I think if you do that from a place of respect and not from a place of being someone who has it figured out, because let me promise you, you're not going to have. It doesn't matter how many books you've read on the issue, especially with Hinduism. You're going to find, because there is this, there are a lot of different takes on what Hinduism means, even to Hindus. So if you want to grasp and be able to have a conversation that doesn't lead to simple debate, ask them to explain what they believe to you based on some of the specific kinds of terms that you've learned in the class. Use those more as a launching point than as a definition point, and you trying to tell them you know exactly what they believe already. And then what that does is open up the door for you then to ask some questions, draw some contrasts. For instance, a contrast. Hindus' understanding of the world around us. Is the world essentially good? Is the world essentially bad? Understanding where did the world come from? The gods created it, is maybe what some of them would say, but did God create the world for what reason? If reality is an illusion, if it's we talked about the phrase that they use, Maya, which means an illusion. If that's what the world is, then how does that differ from the Christian perspective? We believe that Paul says in Romans 1 that God created the world to tell us something about Himself as a personal God, as a personal being. So that's just a small little example, but I would say the most important thing to learn how to do is to don't use the things that you're learning in this class as a way of saying this is exactly what you believe, and as a way to beat somebody else over the head about where you disagree. I don't think that's going to get you very far because you don't know enough to do that. What you can do is use what you've learned in the class as a starting point for a conversation. I told you a little bit about moksha, about samsara, about maya, and these different things. Ask them what they believe about these things and understand how those ideas are contrasted with Christian belief. Obviously, you're not going to get the full how-to right here in this little vlog, but we're going to continue talking about these things throughout the class, especially the last 2 sessions of What Do They Believe. We're going to be covering these questions. So that's it for now. I also want to turn you on to a website that someone told me about called Karma to Grace, karmatograce.com. Go to this website, karmatograce.com, and I think it's a great place for you to check out some resources about Hinduism and get some answers. It's a very good way to go a lot deeper than we can go in our 2 40-minute sessions for this class. All right, take it easy. God bless. We'll see you. Bye.